Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Jeremy, the Everyday Epidemiologist. I know you are all likely expecting me to post a video where I reacted to and assessed the movie Contagion because that's what I said was up next. Unfortunately, I didn't get it all edited in time, so it'll be the next one up. I promise. In the meantime, I have this short video for you talking about the dangers of raw milk. This is an important topic because there are some, unfortunately, very powerful people like RFK Jr. that are encouraging the consumption of raw milk and saying it is safe and has many benefits. So today I'm going to talk about why all of that is wrong. I'll go over the risks associated with it and try to show why these supposed benefits are just flat out wrong. But first, a couple of quick disclaimers. First, nothing in this video is medical advice. Any medical advice you want or need should be obtained from your primary care physician. Second, this information is not coming in any sort of official capacity from the health department where I work. Third, all of the information provided in this video comes from publicly accessible websites, books, and research articles. You can find the links in the description. Fourth, I try to provide as accurate and scientifically based information as possible. However, I may misspeak or unintentionally say something that is incorrect. If you catch me on this, please leave a comment with what I said wrong, and if possible, a source to the correct information. I'll look into it. If I was wrong, I'll provide the correct information in a future video. So, without further ado, let's talk about raw milk. Raw milk is simply milk that has not been pasteurized. It's a simple enough definition, but that leads to the question of what is pasteurization? Pasteurization is a process that heat treats foods and beverages to destroy potentially disease-causing microorganisms. It is named after the French scientist Louis Pasteur, who first came up with this process in the 1860s to prevent the abnormal fermentation of wine and beer. He would heat the beverages to about 57 degrees Celsius or 135 degrees Fahrenheit for a few minutes, and that solved his problems. It wasn't until 1886 that someone decided to do this on milk. That person was a German agricultural chemist named Franz von Soxhlet. In 1891, 1 out of every 4 infants in New York City died. After the advent and spread of milk pasteurization, that number dropped to 1 out of every 14. So obviously, a lot of kids were dying due to contaminated milk. Pasteurization heats up the milk to a certain temperature, holds it there for a certain amount of time, then quickly cools the milk back down to be sent to stores. Most milk is heated to a temperature of 72 degrees Celsius or 161 Fahrenheit and is held there for 15 seconds. But there are a number of other temperature and time combinations that can be and sometimes are used. You can see this in the picture that is on screen now. Basically, the hotter the temperature, the shorter the time it needs to be held at that temperature, with the exception of ultra-pasteurization, but that isn't a typically used process. What does this do? Why do we pasteurize milk? This is done to increase the safety of the milk and increase the shelf life. Raw milk has a number of pathogens that can make you sick if you consume it. These include E. coli, Listeria, Salmonella, Campylobacter, Brucella, Cryptosporidium, Mycobacterium bovis, and even potentially bird flu. These bacteria and viruses can be in the raw milk even if the cow doesn't appear to be diseased, and even if the equipment used to harvest, store, and transport the milk is clean. Pasteurization kills these microorganisms, preventing you from getting these diseases. Since there are fewer microorganisms after pasteurization, the shelf life of pasteurized milk is longer than unpasteurized milk. Pasteurized milk, if properly refrigerated, can be kept fresh for 2 to 3 weeks as opposed to just a couple of days of raw milk. So, what happens if you consume raw milk and end up getting one of these diseases? I won't go through them all in lots of detail, but I'll hit some of the highlights. Salmonella, Campylobacter, and Cryptosporidium often cause diarrhea, sometimes watery, sometimes bloody, abdominal pain, fever, malaise, nausea, and vomiting. Deaths from these diseases are rare, but can occur in up to 1% of people infected. The very young and the very old, as well as those who are immunocompromised, are the hardest hit. E. coli causes much of the same symptoms, but can result in a much more severe disease that could cause the infected person to end up on dialysis or could result in death. Listeria is a very insidious disease. It can cause headache, fever, malaise, and gastrointestinal disease like the others, but it can become invasive. If it does, it can cause septicemia, which is infection of the bloodstream, or encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain. The mortality rate of invasive listeria in the United States is 18%. In pregnant women, it can lead to placental invasion, causing a fetal infection. This can result in stillbirth, preterm delivery, spontaneous abortion, or an infection of the newborn infant. The mortality rate of newborns that are infected with listeria is 20 to 30% and can reach 50% if symptoms show up in the first 4 days after birth. Earlier this month, in New Mexico, United States, a newborn contracted listeria, likely because her mother drank unpasteurized milk during pregnancy. This infant unfortunately died due to the disease. Brucella can cause fever, headache, anorexia or a decreased appetite, and weight loss. It can also cause infection of organs, including the liver and spleen, as well as other more severe complications. The mortality rate of brucellosis is about 2%. Mycobacterium bovis causes a type of tuberculosis, also known as TB. This is a very nasty disease that affects the lungs, lymph nodes, as well as other parts of the body. Common symptoms are cough, fever, night sweats, weight loss, and other symptoms depending on what body part has become infected. And lastly, if you want to learn about the dangers of catching bird flu, check out my previous video on avian influenza. What else does pasteurization change about milk? Well, honestly, not much. It does destroy any vitamin C that is in the milk, but that doesn't matter much because it has a minuscule amount of vitamin C anyways. There are much better ways of getting vitamin C. It has no effect on the fats, the proteins including lactose, the calcium, or any of the other vitamins and minerals that are in pre-pasteurized raw milk. Now that you know what pasteurization is and what it does to the milk, and you know what potential diseases you can get from consuming raw milk, you may be asking, why do people do this? Why do some people, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr., say it isn't a problem, or even is a good thing? Well, they're either lying or they have fallen for and are repeating lies that they have been told. Now, let's go over some of their claims and I'll show you why they are wrong. Myth 1. Raw milk cures lactose intolerance. Lactose is a sugar molecule found in milk. People who are lactose tolerant have an enzyme called beta-galactosidase or lactase that breaks down lactose during digestion. Those who are lactose intolerant are missing this enzyme. This myth claims that raw milk contains beneficial bacteria that secrete lactase to help you break down the lactose. This is just not true. While some fermented dairy products like yogurt do contain microorganisms that assist in the digestion of lactose, raw milk does not contain these organisms. Myth 2. Raw milk cures allergies and asthma. This myth goes back to the Parseval study conducted by Wasser et al. In 2007 that found that farm milk consumption decreased risk for allergies and asthma. But this study was not looking at the impact of pasteurized versus raw milk. About half of the milk in this study was boiled and therefore pasteurized. The authors also say specifically, quote, consumption of raw farm milk cannot be recommended as a preventative measure, end quote. Other studies have shown that there is no difference between raw milk and pasteurized milk when investigating allergy sensitization or allergic responses. Myth 3. Raw milk is better at preventing osteoporosis. There are no studies that suggest or show that pasteurized milk is linked to osteoporosis or that raw milk promotes calcium deposition in the bone. Studies have shown that the concentration and bioavailability of calcium is not affected by pasteurization. Myth 4. Raw milk has friendly bacteria or good gut bacteria. There are no probiotic or beneficial bacteria found in milk. What can be there, however, are the disease-causing pathogens that I talked about earlier. One bacteria mentioned specifically in this myth is Bifidobacteria. This is a bacteria that is present in cow fecal matter. If raw milk is collected with proper hygiene, this bacteria should not be present. If it is, that means there is cow poop in your raw milk. I hope you don't want to drink raw milk with cow poop in it. Myth 5. Raw milk is good for the immune system. Either it builds the immune system or it contains immunoglobulins. This is objectively false. There are bacteria and viruses and parasites in raw milk that can risk getting you sick. Young children are particularly susceptible to these pathogens. They do nothing to build the immune system. As for the immunoglobulins, the concentration in bovine milk is very low, about 0.6 to 1.0 milligrams per milliliter. At this concentration, they are physiologically insignificant to humans. Myth 6. There are extra proteases or lipases in raw milk that facilitate milk digestion. Milk does contain various proteases. One in particular, plasmin, is important in determining milk quality and important in cheese ripening. However, increased levels of plasmin decrease the shelf life of milk and indicate that it is low quality milk. Pasteurization has little effect on the concentrations of plasmin as it is fairly heat stable and most of it survives this process. High levels of other proteases other than plasmin can indicate that the milk is contaminated with disease-causing bacteria. The main lipase in cow milk is lipoprotein lipase, or LPL. There is absolutely no physiological role of LPL in the milk digestion or utilization. Therefore, even though pasteurization does inactivate most of LPL, it has no impact on the nutritional effects of milk. Myth 7. Raw milk is more nutritious than pasteurized milk. As I mentioned earlier, the only major change in the nutritional content due to pasteurization is the removal of the very limited vitamin C. If you're worried about getting vitamin C, eat an orange or other fruit that's high in vitamin C. There's much more present there than there is in raw milk. Myth 8. Raw milk contains natural antimicrobial components, therefore it can kill disease-causing bacteria on its own. The major antimicrobial compounds in milk are lactoferrin, lactoperoxidase, lysozyme, and xanthine oxidase. There is no evidence to show that these can kill the pathogens in raw milk and make it safe. The concentrations are way too low to have any impact at all. Pasteurization is the only way to ensure the complete elimination of disease-causing pathogens that may be present in the milk. Myth 9. Raw milk has more folate-binding protein, leading to increased folate utilization. The concentration of folate in milk is very low, only about 5 to 8 micrograms per 100 grams of milk. Dietary recommendations say you should get about 400 micrograms of folate per day, depending on your gender and your age, as well as a couple other factors. This means you would need to drink 5 to 8 liters, or 21 to 34 cups of milk per day, to get the required amount of folate. Regardless of that, pasteurization has a very limited impact on folate levels. One study reported a slight decrease from 8 micrograms to 6.4 micrograms per 100 grams of milk after pasteurization, so basically decreasing from very little to slightly less, basically having no impact whatsoever. Additional studies looking at folate binding protein found that there was minimal, if any, impact on the amount of this protein due to pasteurization. Myth 10. Good hygiene practices make raw milk safe. While good hygiene and safe practices can lower the amount of bacteria in raw milk, it cannot stop all of it from getting in. These bacteria can be present in raw milk even if the cow it comes from does not show any signs or symptoms of disease. The only way to ensure that there are no harmful bacteria present in your milk is to pasteurize it. If you want more details on the facts debunking these myths, as well as the research articles they come from, you can find it at the website on screen now. So, what is the truth about raw milk versus pasteurized milk? Pasteurized milk is safer than raw milk, and raw milk causes a greater rate of foodborne outbreaks compared to pasteurized milk. In 2010 alone, there were 8 documented outbreaks associated with raw milk. These caused 78 illnesses, with 6 people requiring hospitalization. Between 1987 and 2010, there were at least 133 outbreaks due to the consumption of raw milk or raw milk products. These caused 2,659 illnesses, 269 hospitalizations, 3 deaths, 6 stillbirths, and 2 miscarriages. But the actual numbers are likely to be a good deal higher due to underreporting. There have been examples of disease outbreaks caused by pasteurized milk. Most, however, have been shown to be due to contamination post-pasteurization. Ironically, in multiple cases of post-pasteurization contamination, the source of contamination was raw milk itself. In addition to pasteurized milk being safer, there is no nutritional difference between raw milk and pasteurized milk. There are no positives of drinking raw milk whatsoever. There are only negatives. So in summary, pasteurization of milk does not remove any of the nutritional or health benefits of milk while removing disease-causing pathogens that can result in death. The evidence is pretty clear in my opinion. Raw milk and raw milk products are dangerous and should not be consumed. Do not fall for the lies and the grifters trying to say that it is okay or that it is beneficial. It is not. So with that, I want to say thank you all for joining me today. I hope that you learned something. If you hear anyone that say you or other people should drink raw milk, share some of these facts with them. Let them know the truth and how they are putting their health and potentially their lives on the line for no benefit whatsoever. In the next episode, I will actually post the video on me reviewing the 2011 movie Contagion. Be sure you subscribe so that you don't miss that or any of my other future content. Also, follow me over on Bluesky where I share public health news and information between episodes. You can find the link in the description. Stay healthy, stay happy, and remember, public health is for the good of everybody. I'll see you next time.